Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is the Planet Soccer Pod. I'm Reed. That's Dylan. We're continuing our escapade of analysis on the Champions League groups. We just finished groups A and B, and now we're talking C and D, naturally, because the American alphabet, those come second and third. Dylan, let's dive right into it.
Third and fourth.
Yeah. God damn it.
All right, so now that we got that out of the way, we'll jump into Group C with Napoli, who is the pot one team, Real Madrid, SC Braga from Portugal, and debutants Union Berlin coming from the Bundesliga with our beloved, well, kind of beloved-ish, Brennan Aronson in the fold now. Lots of entertaining storylines here, from managers with rivalries to Real Madrid is a pot two team. So what are your what jumps up off the page to you first when you see this group and saw this draw?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, V, W, X, Y, and Z. I promise I know my alphabet. I just want to clear that up with everybody. Group C, my thoughts. So, yeah, thank you. First of all, Napoli's group stage performance last year was so legendary. I just struggle to get it out of my head coming into this year. At the same time, Real Madrid is a pot two team.
It's Real Madrid.
likely deservedly so. I don't think they're as good as the pot one teams. Jude Bellingham has been fantastic for them so far, kind of willing them in La Liga thus far. Braga is a team last year that finished a distant third behind Porto and Benfica. They advanced to the group stage after a 3-1 aggregate win versus Panathinaikos, I think is how you say it.
They're Greek. I don't know how to say it, but
I'm assuming it's Greek. Yeah, it sounds very Greek. And then the fourth team, you've got Union Berlin. Like I said in our previous episode about groups A and B, I'm a huge culture fan when it comes to soccer. I think it's very interesting that an East German team does make it into the Champions League, because just for those of you who don't know, World War II really just depleted, demolished, absolutely took TNT to any sort of success that East German clubs were having at the time. So it's good to see Union Berlin back in the group. This one, similar to Group A, feels like a pretty clear 1 and 2, but I think the games will be interesting. I have Napoli going, or Union Berlin going to Napoli highlighted, particular because of what one Leonardo Bonucci has criticized Napoli in the past. He is now the manager of Union Berlin. They do play a style that you would assume Leonardo Bonucci's clubs would play, very defensive, counterattacking kind of Italian football. This group is littered with storylines and legendary teams and performances. I think it's worth noting that Napoli has held on to their two catalysts from last year, who they very easily could have sold this year. They do lose Kim Min-jae, who was one of the best central defenders in the world last year. So Napoli's not the same team. They're still good. Real Madrid is still Real Madrid. And probably better. Not their best squad ever, though. Yeah. I would say probably not their best squad.
Yeah, not their best squad ever, but adding Bellingham, I mean, the rich get richer in that midfield. It's
also disgusting. It's a pretty injured roster right now also, so that's worth noting a little bit. I don't know when Vinicius comes back, but yeah. Go ahead.
They've not looked like all that intimidating so far this year. Like yesterday, they won in stoppage time. Gosh, I watched part of that game too.
I think.
Yeah, against.
Was it Getafe?
Yeah, somebody that they should comfortably be beating most times. But you're right, Bellingham has looked absolutely phenomenal. There was a penalty that wasn't given to him yesterday that, in my opinion, probably should have been. So it could have been a lot different game, I suppose. But they're still sitting in first, but they haven't done it as convincingly as we typically see. Beating Celta Vigo and Getafe by a combined 2 goals is not like your typical Real Madrid, but they are still sitting in first, so I don't want to say they're playing poorly. It's just not necessarily as dominant as we normally see, but a lot of that, as you said, does have to do with injuries. I'm not 100% sure of their fixture schedule. I believe they start with Union Berlin, though, which is fortunate for them to try and get some of that squad a little bit healthier before having to play the likes of Napoli. But for me, it is a pretty comfortable 1-2, and that's no disrespect to the culture at Union Berlin or what Braga is able to do in the Portuguese league. I think these two are just two of the top 6 clubs in the world right now, and I don't think the other two sides will really be able to compete. Union Berlin is playing in front of like 75, 80,000 fans. So it's going to be an awesome, absolutely fantastic atmosphere, absolutely fantastic story. But on the field, I just don't think they have what it's going to take to get out of a group with the likes of Real Madrid and Napoli in it.
Yeah. We mentioned on our kind of instant react to the group stages that this would be maybe an awesome audition for Real Madrid striker job, depending on what happens with Kylian Mbappe, obviously. But it's also not necessarily an audition. I don't think that'd be the word, but it's Jude Bellingham's first Galactico Champions League. He's obviously looked the part very much so thus far. I think he's got 4 goals in 3 games or 3 goals in 4 games, something like that. Pretty clear cut 1-2 for me. I like what Braga brings as far as their style of play. I've been very focused on style of play lately because I can't consume enough of Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham right now. They play a 4-2-3-1. I think they had 62 and 58% in their final qualification round versus Panathinaikos.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. But having said that, they're not going to have the talent to play that style and beat Napoli and Real Madrid. I think actually Union Berlin has more of a chance to steal a game from either of these two.
Maybe a better chance.
Unless
but
if Real Madrid or Napoli are playing fine and aren't having a terrible game, I think Union Berlin has more of a chance to win. But if unless they just have a stinker and Braga is able to beat them at their style of play, I think Union Berlin has a better chance to steal a point or so from one of those top two.
Yeah, Union Berlin.
Big eyes on Jude Bellingham in this one.
Yes, no doubt. For me, as far as Union Berlin goes, it's just really, really tough to get a read on them this point of the year. Bundesliga is kind of a league that I told myself I'm going to consume more of this year. So I've wanted to watch them specifically for Aronson. But they just got absolutely battered by Leipzig after his red card, and before that they played 2 relegation sides. So I honestly haven't gotten a chance to consume a lot of Union Berlin. It is exciting though, just so newly promoted, like you said, an East German team. There's a lot of cool storylines in American playing for them. The old Juve versus Napoli rivalry that's getting brought over with Bonucci. There's a lot of intrigue with Berlin. I just don't think it's really going to translate to results on the field, which is unfortunate. But and as much as I love Brendan Aronson, let's be honest, he's not in my opinion, he's not even really a bench player for a serious Champions League side, and I believe he's been starting every game so far. So when you just look at the pure talent level, like you said, I just think it's far too much to overcome for those other 2 sides.
Yep. My last note is I want you guys to Google image search Braga Stadium right now. It sits literally like in a stone mountain. I'm pretty sure there's a quarry like next door. Pretty cool little location. So Dylan, are you Googling it right now?
Yeah, no, I am. Because I don't think this is one I'm actually like familiar with. My favorite like random stadium for like your casuals is definitely oh damn, that's sweet. They have like a jumbotron in the side of the mountain. Is that like legit? Is that what that is?
I think so. Yeah, it's like suspended on the mountaintop.
Right. That's cool. So that's pretty sweet. It's not quite cool. Monaco yet, but like that's yeah. Monaco's still probably my favorite. But having a jumbotron like built into the side of a mountain is pretty awesome. All right,
like the Hollywood sign sitting up on the mountaintop.
I'll tune in for a Braga game in the Champions League, I suppose. Sure, why not?
let's get into the picks for Group C. I'll go first. I've got Real Madrid winning the group, Napoli second, Braga third, Berlin fourth.
I have Berlin third. Other than that, I got you. I agree. I do have Real winning it. I think Bellingham is just. I mean, I don't know. I have probably too big of a soft spot for Bellingham because of his Dortmund days. But he's, in my opinion, the best midfielder in the world, playing on arguably, again, a top 3 team in the world. And I think Napoli could see a slight regression this year. I don't really honestly have a great reason for it, other than they've lost their manager. Some tumultuous ending to the season. They lost
which is weird after a Scudetto.
I know, it's very strange. Very strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little bit of a weird situation there. So I'm expecting slight regression. Don't expect them to win 5 group stage games again. Berlin, I put third, if I'm being perfectly honest, purely because it's a cooler story to me than Braga. So
that's fair. Yeah. Yeah,
I think it's so irrelevant. I think we know who's qualifying, so I didn't really spend much time deciding between the two. I was like, we'll throw Berlin in there. Give Brennan.
I will say I'd like Berlin to get third to be able to go to the Europa League and to continue to make the money to potentially stay among the European competitors in the Bundesliga. And on Jude Bellingham, there's a reason that Birmingham City retired a 16-year-old's number. They knew what he was going to be. They knew before anybody else, and he is every bit of that. So that is Group C. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments. We want more comments, even if they're negative. Let us have it, and make sure you guys subscribe. It is free, and it helps us out a lot. Moving on to Group D. Dylan, I love this group.
It's so fun.
Group F. This is such Group F is the Group F is the highlighter group, the group of death, the fun group. But this one is just as great and wide open. I think my word for this one was coin flip. In this one, you have Benfica, Inter Milan, Red Bull Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. And I will say, the more I read about Real Sociedad, the more and more excited I get about this group. You got an Inter Milan team who seemingly had a disappointing summer, but who's running train in Serie A right now. The Cinderella, if you were from last year's Champions League, is as much as Inter Milan could be a Cinderella. I don't even know if you can call it Cinderella as much as just like they got there by default or boringly. Yeah. I've been pretty vocal, when we've talked about Red Bull Salzburg always being a problem in the Champions League. They've just continued to unearth young talent. It's a club that's seen Sadio Mane, Erling Haaland. Who else have they had? I won't spend too much time on it. Sorry about that. But they've had guys, they've sold them, they've just rebuilt, reloaded. They're the juggernaut of the Austrian league. And then you got Benfica, who is that 1-2 punch in Portugal, similar to Red Bull Salzburg. Always sells, always reloads. It's a fun group. It's a group that will see lots of action, some fun away days, and lots of goals. Dylan, your thoughts on Group D?
I can't say it's the deepest group because it's not, but it's the second deepest group, I think, far and away. It's weird because I say that, and it's very sticky. Sociedad's a phenomenal pot 4 team, but as an Inter guy, I actually really kind of like it. I think it sets up very nicely for Inter to advance. Might not win the group. I don't really care if they win the group with how disappointing the summer's been. As exciting as the start of the season's been, 4 wins and a 4-0 defeat against Fiorentina. Most recently, I'm not overly hopeful long term for the season, but I do think this shapes up really nicely for them to at least advance out of the group. Again, though, Sociedad is a fun pot 4 team. They're a high powered offense. Don't always play a ton of defense. It's going to be a lot of back and forth matches. Especially we saw Benfica scoring almost at will last Champions League group stage round. So we could see them do the same against Sociedad. We could see a 5-4 game between those two, and it would not surprise me in the least. But I think Sociedad just won 5-3 over the weekend. So certainly power to score there, also the ability to concede. So I do expect it to be pretty exciting. Frankly, I don't know a ton about Salzburg right now because, like you said, they're kind of one of those teams that just sell and reload. Like last year it was Benjamin Sesko, like he's the big name. Like let's watch him. And honestly, like there's just not like names that I know because I don't watch them except for when they are playing in the Champions League. So
Champions League.
It's going to be interesting to see them, but it's by no means is it a team that you just assume is going to finish fourth because you don't know their players. Because every Champions League, somebody new pops up, and you go, "Damn, that dude's really impressive." And I'm sure there's some name
very
on
much
there.
like the World Cup. That guy will pop up and it just there he is, that 80 million pound, 80 million euro player just after the group
seemingly
stage
out of nowhere,
League.
and Salzburg tends to do that a lot. So I can't really speak a ton on Salzburg or their play style this year or any specific players. However, they do have a very nice history in the Champions League and developing players. So I think it's going to be extremely interesting. I could see every single team here finishing between first and fourth. And I don't think there's honestly, I don't know if there's another group in general that we could say that about. I don't know if I could see Dortmund or Newcastle winning Group F. So this might be the only group I really feel that way about. So it is going to be really intriguing and going to come down to probably match day 6 to have it could be everybody still in it on match day 6 at this rate. So I'm super excited for it though.
Yeah, I'll give you. It's not a Red Bull Salzburg player, but one guy to watch that could be. Right now, his market value is 25 million. He could easily be 60 by the end of this Champions League. It is Takefusa Kubo, the Japanese winger who plays for Real Sociedad.
Yes. Very, very, very.
I'm sure Nick can talk more about him. But he is a guy who he's got 1 goal and 1 assist in 3 appearances thus far. He had a great year last year. He's probably going to get a big move next summer. So that's somebody I would keep an eye on from this group. As far as Salzburg goes, I really don't know much about them either because they do, like you said, reload so often. And to kind of preview my picks, I actually don't have Salzburg advancing out of this group, although I do want to put them getting out of it. I just think with the quality of Sociedad probably being able to beat Benfica or Inter at home, at least one of them, I think it's going to be hard for Salzburg. Some quotes that I've seen about Sociedad, they can beat anybody in this group. I think Real Sociedad has a chance to go through, although perhaps in Europe not as well known. In Spain, we know how beautifully Real Sociedad play. High praise for them. My pick for this group, I have Inter Milan topping the group. I have Sociedad second, Benfica third, and Salzburg fourth.
I also have Inter winning the group. Not like I don't want to say by default or my biases, but I think they're the one for me, and it's probably an exposure thing and being a club I follow. But I think they have the fewest like true question marks for me. Sociedad's defense, Benfica's defense at times could be a little questionable. Salzburg, I just don't know enough about. But Sociedad also has another player that I think is going to jump off the pages here in the next couple years. Under, I'm not even going to try and Barr, not going to spell it out for you. Some crazy last name, left winger. Looked very, very good. The 45 minutes of Sociedad I watched this year, and I've heard his name floated around a bit as being Isak-esque in that he can play very different size and play style, but very flexible across the front three, and they kind of see as their next young up and coming goal scorer in that side. So that's another name to kind of look out for here that I wanted to give a shout to. But I do have Benfica finishing in second behind Inter, Sociedad in third, and Salzburg in fourth. I think recency bias does play a role here a little bit with Benfica. I'm just kind of trusting them to maybe not replicate exactly what they did last year in this group, but just kind of expecting them to have a really solid showing once again because it does sit so recent in my head how really solid they looked last year.
Yeah. Next time we're going to be previewing groups E and F, 2 very different groups. That is our thoughts on C and D, though. Dylan, do you have anything else before we head out?
No, I don't think. I think the last thing on Group D here, I think that first match day, while you don't want to put too much stock in it, is going to be really, really telling, because it will be our first look at us, you and I, our first look at Salzburg, and we'll see if Benfica really can continue that success from last year, and then we'll get to see if Sociedad can hang with Inter, or if Inter is going to look like the giant that their name appears that they should be, despite a pretty
Yeah.
quiet summer. I'm super excited for this group. I think if I was a casual, this would probably still be my second favorite group. So I don't think it's just because I'm Newcastle biased, but this is
Yeah.
in most years this would likely be my favorite group. But it's going to be a very entertaining group. And again, I think it's highly likely all four teams are somewhat still in the mix come match week 5 and 6. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. C is fun storylines, but on the field, I don't think it'll be quite as good. But D's going to be electric.
It will be. That's been this episode of the Planet Soccer Pod, guys. We appreciate you guys watching as always. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment, and
It's
share it with
free.
anybody you think would like to see it. And we'll talk to y'all next time.